Well, tonight at 9 o'clock, President Donald Trump is set to address a joint session of Congress during his annual State of the Union speech. He'll take the podium amid economic uncertainty, a Supreme Court setback over tariffs, and growing questions about foreign policy, including Iran.
Joining us now to talk more about this speech and its significance is Dr. Matt Dallek, a historian and a professor of political management at George Washington University. Dr. Dallek, thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we want to start with this. We know that the president will highlight his economic policies. What specifically do you think he will tout as his greatest legislative achievements during this term?
Well, he's almost definitely going to talk about the so-called One Beautiful Bill, the tax cuts that are coming. That's really his only major legislative achievement. But then he's obviously going to try to defend tariffs, which are deeply unpopular. The Supreme Court just struck down the authority he used for his prior tariffs. He's going to talk about why they're bringing in money, making the country great. But it's a tough job because, large majority of the public is opposed to his economic policies and think that things have gotten worse, not better, over the past year plus.
I want to ask you about that, but let me attach it to this. Of course, we saw the Supreme Court strike down the Liberation Day tariffs from the president. So how significant is that ruling politically for his perceived achievements this term? And as you mentioned, how does he fight that with average Americans saying, hey, we haven't seen the cost getting that much lower?
A lot of people have said that the Supreme Court striking down his tariffs was a win for him politically, because he should have just taken it, right? Tariffs are unpopular. They're raising prices. Cost of living is the number one issue. And yet, Trump over the weekend, since the decision was made, he kind of doubled down and said, I'm using a different authority. I'm imposing 15% across the board tariffs. The markets yesterday did not do well. So rather than kind of take the win and say, okay, we're just going to have very low tariffs and the Supreme Court has ruled. He loves tariffs and, he seems unbending in his support of them. And so the dynamic politically does not seem like a path back for him. He would probably need to reduce those tariffs and the economy would need to make progress that people feel in their lives.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the nuclear talks with Iran scheduled this week. How closely will lawmakers and foreign leaders be watching this tone tonight for signals about possible military action?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest things people will be watching for. I think one of the tells will be what he says about Iran. Remember, we may be on the verge of a major war with Iran with very little to no debate. No debate in Congress, very little debate in the country. Trump has sent a huge fleet to the region, and he hasn't much talked about Iran, at least not in a formal setting like this. So, this is an opportunity for him to lay out why he is seemingly prepared to attack Iran, why now, and then what the end game would be.
So let's talk about the midterms, less than 9 months away. New polling shows the president has hit a new low with independent voters. So when it comes to the speech, do you think it'll focus more on governing or campaigning? We've seen this president do that even well into his presidency. And what will you be listening for in the terms of understanding political strategy?
Well, the two things I think are inseparable, right? I mean, Trump is always campaigning. I think he announced that he was running for re-election during his first term after a year. So, governing is inseparable. I think I'll be watching to see if he shifts, sends any signals about what he's going to do with ICE, the National Guard deployments. How much is he going to talk about his, false theories about the 2020 stolen election? Or promise to crack down on this year's midterm election. So, it's hard for me to think that he's going to have a major change in strategy. I think that's highly unlikely. But I guess to the degree to which he kind of moves further to the right and goes further down the rabbit hole of extremism, I think that will be telling to watch, and is probably not going to, if he does that, make most Republican members of Congress very happy, because they think it's not helpful to them in their reelection campaigns.
Dr. Matt Dallek with the George Washington University. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll be watching tonight. I know you will be too.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger, she will deliver the Democratic response, and you can watch both the State of the Union and the governor's response on our air, WUSA 9, and streaming right here on WUSA 9 Plus. We have special coverage starting at 9 tonight.